Welcome, guys, to Saints and Sacrifices, my brand new channel. Um, so just a quick, why Saints and Sacrifices? Um, I was never religious, but I came to religion in my mid-50s. I know I don't look anything like 50, but there we go. Um, don't laugh. So anyway, so the saints and martyrs of Christendom, I don't know, I just sort of think, like, especially in the modern times, they're just getting eradicated. We don't know anything about these people. We're not taught it in school. There's nothing on TV about them, stuff like that. So, and I just sort of thought, like, like when you're driving down the motorway, like St Albans, for instance, it's just a sign on a motorway. It was the name of the town. I didn't think anything more of it. And so anyway, I thought I'd start off this channel with St Alban for three reasons. So some years ago, I was baptized into the Russian Orthodox Church, and I picked the name Alban for three reasons. I just hope I can remember them. One is that I'm English, he's English. Two, it sort of struck a chord with me when I read about him. And third, he was the first English Christian martyr. So anyway, let's just jump straight into it, shall we? So, the legend of St Alban. So, 3rd, 4th century England, under strict Roman military rule. Christians were persecuted and killed on a daily basis. In the early days of Christianity, the Romans wouldn't have anything to do with it at all. It was like, no, you worship Roman gods. England is now a Roman colony, so that's it. Tough luck. So anyway, there was a guy, a man lived there called Alban, who wasn't. So like Alban was like, he wasn't a Christian. He was a Roman soldier. In fact, he killed Christians on a weekly basis. And at one point, there had been a priest going through a small town called, bear with me, Verulamium, something like that. Anyway, and this priest was going through and he was trying to convert the locals, probably pagans or Roman god servers, things like that. And of course, like, this couldn't happen in the 3rd, 4th century Roman Britain. So the Romans decided, right, we've heard about this priest, like, let's go get him. And do what we do with Christian priests, we will just behead him. So anyway, this priest was running through the town trying to escape. And Alban was at his door and saw him running and said, quick, jump in here, and hid this priest. And so, which was already an act of treason. If you think you're like a Roman soldier doing that, it's just strange. So anyway, Alban kept him there for 3 days and just watched this priest pray, listen to his scripture, and was so moved by this priest's faith and thought, and then the priest actually baptized him into Christianity. And he thought, like, I've got to get this priest out of here so he can carry on converting people to Christianity. So he said, like, tomorrow morning at dawn, like, you can escape. You have to leave. So anyway, dawn the next morning, plans were a little bit awry. A few of the houses, one of them being Albans, were surrounded by Roman soldiers. They knew he must be in one of these houses because they'd searched the whole village, town. So Alban said, right, okay, you take my clothes. I'll put on your priestly gear, clothes, if you know what I mean, big cloak and cross and stuff like that. And so they switched clothes. And when the Roman soldiers came to the door, banging on the door, Alban went to the door and put his hands up and said, okay. And so they dragged what they thought was the priest off. And they thought okay, we got him. The priest escaped and went on probably to convert, if the history books and the chroniclers at the time say that he converted thousands of people, this priest, afterwards. Anyway, so they took this Alban to the general, who was the judge of the Roman garrison in the town, and realised that, hey, this is a Roman soldier. This isn't the priest. So the general said, okay, right, you committed treason. You need to worship these gods and denounce Christ. Alban wasn't having any of it. He said, no, can't do it. I can only worship the one and true God. So they said, well, okay, then take him away, beat him, torture him, and bring him back. So the Roman soldiers took him off down to the cells or whatever they were in them days, beat him to a pulp, tortured him, whipped him, and then dragged him back through the streets to see the general again, and said, now you've seen what us Romans do. Denounce Christ, worship our gods. Alban, even though he was near dead, said, no, can't do that. So they said, okay, well, we were going to behead the priest so you can take his place. So set a date for execution for 2 or 3 days' time. And they thought, we'll make a exhibition killing of this. So they spread it around that they were going to execute a Roman soldier for treason. Just to let people know, you don't really want to take this action, guys. So at the execution site, thousands turned up because it was a Roman soldier that was going to get beheaded. From all villages and towns from around this area, all turned up to see this public execution of this Roman soldier, Alban. So much, in fact, that when the general was bringing him to the execution site, there was a bridge there and he couldn't get through because the bridge was packed with people, hundreds of people. So the actual general said, okay, you guys go ahead, bring me the head of him when it's finished. And so the soldiers were sort of thinking we can't get across that bridge. What do we do? Alban said, take me down to the riverbank. And he took him down to the riverbank, and it was quite a fast-flowing river, apparently. And then, for unknown reasons, the river level dropped. It became more manageable to cross for him, for the soldiers to drag him through the river and up a small hill to the execution spot. So that's what they did. Well, people couldn't believe what had happened with this water. It was what? What on earth is that? So I took him up to the execution spot, and they said to the executioner, they did all their speeches and stuff like that. Said to the executioner, okay, this guy, behead him. Alban, put his head on the chopping block. And the executioner said, no, I can't do it. I won't do it. Let me take his place. Can you imagine? Imagine an executioner who does this for a living. He's only just met this guy. He's seen what he's done to the water. He's looked into this guy's eyes and said, no, let me take his spot. So the Romans thought, like, hey, you can go first then. So they put the executioner head on the block and chopped his head off. So then they put Alban's head back on the block, and the second executioner, so the second execution, the first executioner decided to like slip away. He couldn't do it. So another Roman soldier came along and said, like, well, I'll do it. So he chopped Alban's head off. Now, there's a couple of myths around this. One is when Alban's head fell to the floor, the Roman soldier who had chopped his head off, his eyes popped out. And another myth is that when his head dropped to the floor, flowers started to appear where his blood had touched the ground. So, I don't know, myths, don't know, whatever. So, anyway, the Russian soldiers, Russians. I've got to move that lamp, by the way, because it looks like I'm wearing some sort of daft hat. So the Roman soldiers took the head back to the general and said, there you go, he's dead. But we may have problems because, like, thousands, like up to 2,000 people have now become Christian after witnessing what had happened there this day. You know, what with the river, the first executioner refusing to kill him, the second executioner, his eyes popped out, or the flowers appeared, Alban's blood, and thousands of people had like converted to Christianity. So it didn't really go to plan for the Roman Empire in that part of England. And then for some time afterwards, people had started to put a mound of stones where Alban was buried at the execution spot, and this became a pilgrimage because this story spread around the whole of England, and people would like walk hundreds of miles to get to this spot to like pay homage to Alban for his bravery and, you know, stuff like that. And it was getting so much that the general of the Roman battalion there, for whatever reason, he stopped persecutions of Christians in that area. And this sort of like spread to like outside that area as well. So much so that they could actually build a small church on that spot where that rock pile was, where Alban was buried, and they built a small church to it. That turned into some 100 years later, that turned into an abbey. Now it's a cathedral. And also, like, you know, the change in English history after that one execution, it just changed England into what it is today. Maybe not what it is today, but what it was a good few years ago. So that's the story of St. Alban. I think maybe you could understand why I picked the name Alban for my baptism. It's an amazing story. And these were like chronicled by the by the chroniclers of the day, both Christian, pagan and Roman, had all written this down. And the famous Saint Bede, some centuries later, found this paperwork, and this place called St Albans, because they changed the name from Verulamum, whatever it was, to St Albans, and wrote it all down in Saint Bede's famous book. So yeah, so that's the first one of my channel for St Albans. So I've this call of action thing. I hope this has inspired you to, excuse me, to at the weekend, when you're having your first drink with your mates or your family, or even if you're just on your own, just raise your glass to St Alban, the first English martyr, and let's get his name spread about a bit, and maybe even go to a church on Sunday. This is what we need to do, is we need to turn this country Christian again. Go to a church, your local church. If you don't like that one, find another one. Put a couple of quid in the pot. Let's build up our churches again. Let's get them bells ringing. And let's just, these people, and I'm not just doing England. I'm just, like I said at the beginning, I chose St Alban because that's my name. He's English, I'm English, but this is going to be across the whole of Christendom. Yeah, so raise a glass to St Alban on the weekend, and just sort of, cheers, mate, that type of thing. Also, the next video I do is more Eastern Europe. That's a killer, guys. You don't want to miss that one. So anyway, thank you guys for popping in and seeing me on my Saints and Sacrifice. And don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment if you know of a saint, or a saint of your local area or church that you want me to look into, and maybe I could do some research on it and do a video about that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace to all of you.